Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she doesn't look good at her current weight? I married the girl all my friends told me to run from. She'd cook me lavish meals but always avoided restaurant date nights, had an avid obsession with fitness influencers and never replied to me from 8 p.m. to 10 a.m. because apparently, she was sleeping for around 14 hours every night. Eventually, she revealed to me that she had an ED and it was the first time I cried since my granddad died. I felt so stupid for not seeing it sooner. I promised her that no matter what weight she was, I would love her regardless, that her happiness meant more to me than any meaningless number on a scale. The following month, as if by magic, my wife came out as pregnant. I had a pretty good job in finance and was more than happy to embrace fatherhood. My main concern was my wife. If she kept going the way she was, then there was no way the baby would be able to survive. I tried to prepare by reading countless books on how to support your wife after a miscarriage. Luckily, it never happened. I saw her try to eat more and more food. But the strange part was, it was mostly all at night. She told me she was only getting crazy cravings at the end of the day and how she wanted to give in because the health of our baby girl meant more to her than anything else. She wanted her to grow in a healthy and nourished womb. This was fine by me. I figured that calories consumed were going to effectively fuel her and our child, regardless of the time of day. I smiled like a goofball. It was the first miracle from our baby girl, with many more to come. I went into husband mode and started cooking her different meals every single day. She would eat beyond fullness and even ask for seconds. My heart had never been more full and it was definitely the highlight of our marriage. As the months went on, the cravings brought her from 90 to 130 pounds. I couldn't have been happier. Knowing that feeding her also meant feeding our child meant the world to me. She even got some new favorite foods and we ate dinner in restaurants together. For the first time in our entire relationship. I assumed that most of it was baby fat anyway and she'd probably lose it pretty fast. I couldn't have been more wrong. By the time baby delivery came, she was a whopping 170 pounds. Just to clarify, I still thought she was as beautiful as ever. Not only was this woman the love of my life and my first time for everything, she was also the bearer of my child. I was just concerned. And, in the weeks after our girl was born, I knew something wasn't right. Actually, she should have been losing weight, which she clearly wasn't. I avoided mentioning anything to her in case it could trigger her ED. Then I figured it out. One night I went to go to the bathroom and heard a strange crunching sound in the kitchen. I found her gorging on every snack she could get her hands on. It felt like I was watching her ED in reverse. I couldn't understand why she was doing this. It was like she was throwing all our hard work out the window. I bit my tongue as she looked up at me with her brown puppy eyes. She admitted that during the day, she had enough strength to ignore the cravings by distracting herself with work. But lying in bed at night was basically torture. She would be so wired from the day, unable to sleep or resist the hunger pangs. By this point she was in tears and reciting 10 different ways of saying sorry. I hugged her and reminded her I loved her. Deep down, I was ashamed. As a man, I had let down my family. From then on, I knew it was time to take more lead as a husband and father. I completely stopped eating and buying anything that wasn't home-cooked meals. I helped out more with the baby, volunteering to be the one to wake up in the middle of the night and nurse her back to sleep. I figured her diet and sleep schedule was probably the root of the extreme nighttime snacking. And the idea of seeing my darling being well slept and eating good filled me with more fulfillment than anything ever had. Unfortunately, this dream never came true. Every night she would bypass my efforts with late-night orders from DoorDash and Uber Eats. But I knew it was my job to intervene. I beat around the bush and went for a very vague approach, not using any words relating to the nighttime binge eating or weight. But I knew she understood the seriousness of the conversation. I told her that not going for walks with mama could affect our baby girl, and that I'd love for our little family to be able to go on adventurous holidays. Luckily, she understood my intentions and opened up. She told me about how stressed she felt all the time, how it constantly felt like she was going to slip back into her ED and had to eat an F-ton before sleeping just in case. She even told me she had nightmares of starving herself again and not being able to nurse our daughter. I held her and stroked her face while she told me how she felt. I reminded her that as long as she is breathing I will always see her as my beautiful princess, that we are in this together. I told her she had really been neglecting her solo dates since the baby popped out, something she used to love doing. She leapt at the idea and I told her I'd mind our baby girl while she did her thing. After that, as if by magic, I noticed the baby fat start to disappear. There were no more late-night DoorDash orders or snack runs, and she was still eating healthy 3 meals a day. I couldn't believe it. I started to spy on her by setting an alarm every night at 4 a.m. But, every time I would wake up only to her sleeping right beside me with no snack in sight. I found it strange that one hangout could change so much but, again, I was scared to question it in case it caused a relapse. I was just happy to see my wife active again. After 3 months her under eyes were cleared up and there were no recent receipts on any food delivery app. By this point, she was also going on daily walks and weekly hikes. So I took a shot in the dark and proposed what I had wanted all along. A family staycation to the woodlands, which she agreed to. I was ecstatic and picked her up and spun her around. Something I hadn't been able to do since the pregnancy. This 180 was insane and I was scared that she was hiding something from me. But I just wanted to focus on the future. On the staycation, our itinerary was filled with water sports and long walks. I was so excited to show my baby girl the world. One morning I woke up and saw my wife had actually woken up before me, after not being a morning person for 2 years. Curiosity got me. I asked her what her secret was and apparently she had bought these night food cookies. She told me that on her solo date, she ended up crying about the eating issues to her yoga instructor who had experienced something similar. She told my wife that as soon as her cravings hit, she would start eating these cookies, and they would knock her right out. My wife told me she was skeptical, but then she saw the night food cookies were lower in calories than other supermarket cookies and knew that something needed to change. I hugged her and told her how proud I was that she had kept searching for an answer, that she was so strong and our baby girl would have so much to look up to. She joked and said, "Don't thank me, thank the night food cookies." We made love and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. She thanked me for how much I had been there for her and that she knew this journey was hard on me too. I told her I would do anything for our little family. I'm gonna be honest, there were sleepless nights where I would wonder if my wife was gonna unalive from her ED. I'm so happy we never had to resort to medication.